Good evening and welcome to the Monday, September 9th meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission. So we'll go ahead and start with a roll call. Chair Lisa Hanson, present. Vice Chair Jacob Miller.
Present.
Alder Jim Hutchinson. He's excused. Okay. Commissioner Darius Daniels.
Present.
Commissioner Ken Ravinsky.
Present.
Commissioner Emma Fullwilder. Present. And Commissioner Kelsey Lutzow. Is she excused or?
She didn't, I didn't. think
Okay.
of it.
Okay. She's currently not present. Okay. All right, moving on to the approval of the agenda. Approval of the agenda for the Monday, September 9th, 2024 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Daniels, second by Commissioner Ravinsky. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And then moving on to approval of minutes. Approval of the minutes from the Monday, August 12th, 2024 meeting.
So moved. Second.
A motion by Vice Chair Miller, a second by Commissioner Daniels. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then moving on to regular business, and item number 1 is a public hearing. And this public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Press Gazette. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or only providing information in this matter, and your comments or concerns. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we will now open the public hearing on item number 1. Public hearing on a request to rezone the properties located at 1512 North Barrett Street, 1522 North Barrett Street, 1520 YZ Street, 1524 YZ Street, is that how you say that? And 1538 YZ Street from GI General Industrial District to RI Low Density Residential District, submitted by Community and Economic Development.
Sure. So the properties that we're looking at are at the southeast corner of YZ and Baird. As you can see here, it's 5 parcels that are located adjacent to predominantly low density neighborhood to the west, and then the mobile home park to the south. Next, please. So the future land use for these 5 individual parcels is low density residential. You'll see that for the property to the south as well, and then off to the east, that's a meeting the high density residential housing area. Next. So what's a question here is a rezone request to have these 5 parcels go from a GI general industrial to R1 low density residential. Of those 5 parcels, 3 happen to have homes on them right now. 2 are single families, one's a 2-fam. And then one of the property owners came to staff in the past few months saying, I'd like to put a house here. Made sense. Can't do it with zoning though. So while the future land use calls for that to be low density residential, the existing zoning does not. So the existing zoning calls for that entire area that happens to be this mix of mobile home park and then some single and 2 families to the north as general industrial. Next, please. This is a view if you're looking southbound, and that's the north side of the road that you're seeing. So you'll see a 2-story home that's a yellowish over on the left, and then the 2 existing homes that are on the block, as well as the 2 remaining parcels over by the corner itself. If you look far into the background, you'll see the mobile home park. There was a call in by the person who owns 2 of the properties, one that's vacant and one that is not. They happen to own off to the northeast part of that block, another section of mobile home park. Staff understands that there should be some codification of the area to the south at some point, as we look back to the future land use, that mix of residential and medium high density residential, with the underlying zoning of industrial. But we're trying to address this one right now. This is the low hanging fruits. The lot sizes are pretty indicative of typical single family lot sizes. They can hold single family lots on them, and more than half are already doing so. So this would just give it into more of a cleanup action.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 2. Consideration with possible action on a request to rezone the properties located at 1512 North Barrett Street, 1522 North Barrett Street, 1520 YZ Street, 1524 YZ Street, and 1538 YZ Street from GI General Industrial District to R1 Low Density Residential District, submitted by Community and Economic Development.
Sure. So as noted, the only comments we received from the public on this was the one property owner more asking what's going to happen with, why is it industrial still to the south? So as noted in the staff report, staff will look into some sort of reclassification for this area in the future. We have these grouping of mobile home park lots to the south and the east. We have one that exists over by Kennedy Park and on the west side over by Southwest High School. And in the future, looking to make more of a comprehensive classification for those, because right now there's only industrial, the bygone relic. So, yeah, and these 5 parcels that were caught in the mix. So, by changing the zoning, this allows for typical R1 usage on the slots.
Any questions for staff? So, motion by Commissioner Vinsky, and a second by Commissioner. Okay, it's quiet, all right. Do we have any questions for staff for the discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forward then to city council for 17th. Okay. All right. Moving on to item number 3, which is a public hearing. And this public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Press Gazette. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or only providing information in this moment, and your comments are concerned. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. I'll now open the public hearing on item number 3. Public hearing on a request to amend the Smart Growth 2022 Comprehensive Plan for 3315 and 3319 Finger Road from public future land use to medium-high density residential future land use, submitted by Ted Zeman of Zeman Commercial Properties LLC, applicant and property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So these are the 2 properties we're talking about. It are on the corner of Finger and South Huron Road, northeast corner. You can see them here outlined. There's 2 of them. They're about 1.47 acres, just about 1.5 acres. The reason for the request to change the future land use from public or parks to medium high density. The owner has the desire to change the zoning to allow multifamily on that site. So this is just kind of zoomed in. Some of the points that I want to make here, some of the surrounding land uses. To the north and east, you'll see the Finger Road softball complex. And also about a 6-acre water body, which is actually a retention feature. There is on the northern and eastern side of the subject property, there's about a 15-foot drop and about a 40-foot distance. So it goes down into a valley and then it's standing water pretty much all the time. Shows up as navigable water on mapping programs. Wow. To the west across Huron Road, you have BioLife Medical Center. You have a corner property that is designated for commercial uses. And then to the north of that, you have a multifamily. So that was all developed as a planned unit development with commercial along Finger and multifamily kind of dropping into lower density as you went north. On the south side of Finger Road, you have an undeveloped area designated for commercial, and then a public spot that has a water tower on it. Here's the next slide, please. So this is the future land use, as I had mentioned, it's in the title as public, but it's really parks future land use, it's green, red is commercial, and then the yellows and that dark color are some form of residential in different densities. So the existing comp plan recommends, parks use and commercial basically in all, four corners. Next, please. So basically what the petitioner is requesting is that to get a medium-high density residential designation. One of the things I'd like to point out with the parcel itself, it has between 250 and 300 feet of frontage on both Finger and South Huron, which is a significant amount of frontage. Our comp plan in many places will recommend commercial nodes. And nodes are commercial corners that kind of service the surrounding area. This would be, actually, if you could go back one more. Do we need to stop sharing and reshare?
Hopefully we're working.
Okay. So if you notice, it's kind of far out here or kind of close into the south. This is the furthermost commercial area on the north of this area. Kind of continues commercial all the way down South Huron, gets to Mason Street and the industrial park. And then on the north, you'll see it's park and then residential as you go further than that. So staff did have a little bit of concern with just switching this to a multifamily. Right now, sort of commercial is in the low part of the angle of development, and multifamily is high. So, however, we don't disagree with the petitioner that is a good site for multifamily. Contacted Parks Department. They're not interested in ever acquiring it, ever using it for park property. No other city department commented that it needed to stay and have a public designation. So what staff is actually recommending is to keep it a potential commercial corner and utilize the medium intensity retail office housing designation. And now people go to the next slide, please. So these are sort of out of the comp plan, the three different definitions. A park is obviously public parks would have a public zoning. As you go down to medium intensity residential, it's mainly townhouses, small multifamily, expected to have 8 housing units or more per acre. And that is what's being requested. Staff is recommending, however, the medium intensity retail office housing, which allows a mix of mid to high density housing, but also allows commercial uses or mixed uses. So with understanding that the owner probably wants to go with the residential use, it would be permitted in the neighborhood commercial, or excuse me, in the medium intensity retail office or housing, as it would be in the medium to high intensity residential.
Excellent. All right, so now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who would like to speak on this item. Would anyone like to speak on this item?
Okay.
Would anyone like to speak on this item? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and, sorry, where are we? This one, let the record reflect that no one else has come forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 4. We good? Consideration with possible action on a request to amend the Smart Growth 2022 Comprehensive Plan for 3315 and 3319 Finger Road from public future land use to medium-high density residential future land use, submitted by Ted Zeman of Zeman Commercial Properties LLC, applicant and property owner.
So this section, what we just talked about, so what is being requested is the R, or is not the R3, is the medium to high intensity residential. Staff is not recommending that. We are recommending the medium intensity retail office housing.
So now is that because we're looking, I mean, this development, obviously, they're looking to do a multifamily, but in the future, then that we have a commercial node there, is that?
Correct, that it could fit into the commercial node that's on the other three corners, but it would allow for, a rezone to, a neighborhood commercial or office, residential. There is a zoning component that'll be the next item on the agenda as well.
Is staff not think that was our placement for multifamily?
Do we think it's in a whole? Not necessarily an odd placement, being that it's on the north end of that commercial strip. But again, as the markets kind of change, we don't want to lock it into exclusive residential when 10 years from now, somebody might want to put a mixed use there, or they might want to add a commercial component to that lot. It's on a high visibility corner. Finger Road is generally commercial on the south side, all the way down Finger Road. So we wanted to leave that option open while still allowing the property to be developed.
No, if I was driving it, it would look like it was out of place. It looks very odd.
Any further in discussion or questions for staff?
Motion to approve is recommended.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vinsky, second by Vice Chair Miller. Any further discussion? Go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So that's five.
It doesn't. I just.
All right, that's 5 versus 1, and that will move forward then to City Council for September 17th. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to word it like that. All right, moving on to the next public hearing. And this public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Press Gazette. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda item. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or only providing information in this matter, and your comments or concerns. And also ask you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Planning Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we will now open the public hearing on item number 5. Public hearing on a request for a rezone at 3315 and 3319 Finger Road from general commercial to varied density residential, submitted by Ted Zeman of Zeman Commercial Properties LLC, applicant and property owner.
So this is the same site as we just talked about with the comp plan. Corner of Finger and Sulphura. The next one, this is the aerial again. Future land use that we just talked about. And this is the zoning. So when you look at the zoning area again to the west, across Huron, that is actually a planned development. It shows up as residential, but it's not. It's actually a commercial. To the north and the east, it's zoned low density residential right now. It should probably be rezoned to public institutional, but back in the day that was permitted. And then to the south is mostly planned developments, but it's going up there as very density residential, so multifamily residential. But mostly covered with planned developments. The next one, please. So I wanted to kind of give you the definition. So we talked about the medium intensity retail office housing in the comp plan that'll directly link over to a bunch of zoning districts. So again, it's a mixed use category used as a transition type area. So kind of in this place, transitioning from the commercial Clover Finger up to the north, which is parks and residential. And it'll pick some zoning categories. So office residential is really downtown. It requires large amount of building coverage. It's really for that transition area in between the residential and the city core. Downtown's obviously much higher density. A general commercial would not allow a residential component. Neighborhood commercial, however, fits pretty nicely with this definition. It's a commercial district, but also allows residential, also allows mixed use. So I just picked out 3 of the big differences between the two. So when you look at density, The very density district, the R3, it's 1,500 square feet of land area per one bedroom unit. 500 square feet for every bedroom after that. In the neighborhood commercial district, it's 1,500 square feet per unit, so it doesn't tack on extra for the bedroom. So the neighborhood commercial actually gives you a little greater density, not drastic, but a little bit impervious surface. NC allows a little bit more coverage of a lot than a multifamily does. And then uses are the big thing. The R3 allows single family uses with a conditional use permit. If you remember the conditional use permits, there have to be conditions that can't be met. It allows two family uses by right, a lot of congregate living, so dormitories, shelters, transitional housing, by right. And very little commercial. It does allow some, like some daycares and that type of thing, but very little commercial and no mixed use at all. So it's either all residential or all commercial on a property. Where neighborhood commercial doesn't allow the single or two families, but it allows the multi. The congregate living requires council approval. But it opens that up for mixed use and a whole plethora of commercial uses, neighborhood commercial, nothing super intensive like drive-through type uses. But it would allow cafes, coffee shops, personal service, even some business service uses, recreation. So I wanted to kind of point out the difference because we are not recommending the R3 zoning. As I had mentioned before, we'd be recommending the neighborhood commercial zoning in this request.
Okay. All right. So now with this public hearing, I'm looking to hear from anyone who'd like to speak on this item. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 6. Consideration with possible action on a request for a rezone at 3315 and 3319 Finger Road from general commercial to varied density residential submitted by Ted Zeman of Zeman Commercial Properties LLC, applicant and property owner.
Staff would be recommending approval of a rezone from general commercial to neighborhood commercial.
I mean, what you're saying is neighborhood commercial is more flexible.
That's exactly what we're saying, and it does two things. It allows you to react to a housing stock that's short in the community right now without taking away the ability for that to convert later and stay as a commercial, sort of a commercial node. Again, you're gonna have two corners there that are commercial right now unless others come in to request those to change. And one that's got a water tower on it, so, which will be forward probably forever. Although it looks like they could get rid of a lot of that lot.
Right. So now I have this is purely for my interest only, but that whole 1,500 square feet for the R3, is that an actual 1,500 square feet? Is that, you said land
Land
space?
area.
So that's different than like, I'm thinking a 1,500 square foot one bedroom, that's huge.
No, that's not the unit.
It's
That's
land
what-
area. Okay,
land
that's what
area
you were
need
talking about.
For
Okay.
that one bedroom.
I
unit.
figured there was a difference. Okay,
Yeah.
that was that's all I have.
So again, at 1.5 acres, you're not talking about a giant building, probably around 40 units back. I mean, obviously the site needs to be laid out. There was, I believe in your packets, conceptual site plan. Again, has not been reviewed or anything, but I think that's the desire of the petition.
Motion to approve as recommended.
Okay. All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Ravinsky and a second by Commissioner Lutzo. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
All right. We have 5 for and 1 against. 24 then to City Council for the 17th.
Yes, and this is one of those combo comp plan rezones
Right.
where they'll both go on the 17th of the council and then they'll both be held until 30 days after that.
Right.
Whatever the next one is.
All right. Okay, moving on to item number 7, which is a public hearing. And this public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Press Gazette. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items, and we invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or only providing information in this matter, and your comments or concerns. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the planning commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we will now open the public hearing on item number 7. Public hearing on a request for a conditional use permit to construct a 2-family residential building in an office residential district at 418 4th Street, 400 block of 4th Street, 821 South Chestnut Avenue, and 815 South Chestnut Avenue, submitted by David Erickson of NeighborWorks, Green Bay, applicant, City of Green Bay Redevelopment Authority, property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this request is located in the northeast corner of South Chestnut and 4th Street. And it includes 4 parcels. Here's a visual of what that intersection currently looks like. There were homes here that have been removed. The property is owned by the Redevelopment Authority. NeighborWorks does have a development agreement with the RDA for this project. And then there is a garage that sits there right now. So for future land use, the property is identified as medium intensity retail office housing. And then to the west is low and medium density residential. To the east is commercial. Basically, this is the Broadway corridor here for future zoning. For the zoning, the property is currently zoned OR office residential. And then to the east is the commercial for Broadway, C1. And then to the west is low density residential. And the reason for the request is for the conditional use permit is in the OR district, a 2-family attached building requires a conditional use permit. The 5-unit that they're proposing does not. So if this were to be a 3, they wouldn't need the CUP, but what they're proposing is the 2 units. And here is the elevations of this is what the 5-unit would look like. And then here are the elevations of what the 2-unit would look like. The proposal is that NeighborWorks would combine all of the parcels into one large parcel, and they would then create it as a condominium development. As I had mentioned, the 2-unit requires the conditional use permit. In the OR district, we want to see the higher density residential uses, which is why single and 2-family require a CUP, but 3 or 4 don't and are permitted by right. And with a conditional use permit, there are 7 criteria. And staff has reviewed them, and we did find that this proposal does meet all of the conditions of the conditional use permit. And kind of piggybacking on what David said about his application, in the medium high density housing district in our comp plan, we do want to see greater densities. We want to see, as the smart growth plan points out, greater than 8 units per acre in this medium high density, which the OR fits in. In this particular case, they're proposing 7 units on less than half an acre. So they do comply with our comprehensive plan. And that is all I have for now.
Okay.
And it looks like Noel has his hand raised to speak during the public hearing.
All right, then if you wanted to go ahead and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Noel Halverson, 2443 Deckner Avenue. But I work at 437 South Jackson Street with NeighborWorks Green Bay. And just wanted to speak to, I think that we're still in the public hearing item here, not the CUP itself, but yes, would very much like to see this go through. As you can see from that development site and the way we're proposing to put the project together, it's not a duplex on any lot in that zoning district. It's really a 7-unit property. That's the way we're conceiving it. And if we weren't allowed to do that, we'd be putting up 5 units on the property and having, less density than what you're seeking there. So I think we're just caught by, the particulars of the zoning code and would really appreciate your support for this project, which we've worked out in partnership with members of your team and your allies at the Redevelopment Authority for some much needed new housing near downtown Green Bay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 8. Consideration with possible action on a request for a conditional use permit to construct a 2-family residential building in an office residential district at 418 4th Street, 400 block of 4th Street, 821 South Chestnut Avenue, and 815 South Chestnut Avenue, submitted by David Erickson of NeighborWorks Green Bay, applicant, City of Green Bay Redevelopment Authority, property owner.
Our recommendation is to approve with 2 conditions. One, that the subject site has a minimum of 7 total units. We do want to see what is being proposed, which is 1 5-unit building and 1 2-unit building. We just want to ensure that it doesn't that it gets too low, that it won't comply with our density that we want to see in the OR district. And then compliance with the overall Green Bay municipal code.
Motion to approve as recommended.
Got a motion by Commissioner Vincent, a second by Commissioner Fullwilder. Any further discussion?
Quick question for staff. Is there a reason we need to specify the 5-unit and 2-unit buildings? Could we just leave that off and leave it as 7 in case they need to reconfigure and put 3 and 4 or something? I just don't want to make it over restricted.
Well, if they were to do something like that, the 3-unit wouldn't need the conditional use permit anymore.
Okay.
So
Would.
what was that?
It's the 2 that needs it. The
It's the
3, 4,
2.
5,
Yeah.
whatever is fine. It's the 2 is.
Yeah. And we
Not
just
enough.
really wanted to state that we wanted to see just a minimum of 7, so if they were to do more than that, they're welcome to do that as long as it meets the code, but
Right.
that's kind of the verbiage with that condition.
I think the fear would be
Because they
that
have the plan
just the
already.
duplex would go up and have the CUP for it. So
Oh.
without condition,
Mhm.
if there's not a objection.
Got it. Okay, no, makes sense.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, motion by Commissioner Vinsky, second by Commissioner Fullwilder. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forward into City Council for September 17th.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Noel. All right, moving on to informational director's report.
All right, I apologize for the report not being in. I blame it on Matt, who's slipping on a face somewhere.
And also maybe the thing to put it in there when you have it already.
But I guess just to bring a couple of things to the forefront, there is a ribbon cutting for the city east departments tomorrow. Those are the ones on Walnut and Roosevelt at 10 a.m. And then there's a block party that'll be held at 4 o'clock. The neighborhood associations and the neighborhood pool project, I think it's 43 units of final. Yay. There was a very, very eventful, groundbreaking that was held for the JBS site. Everyone survived it, which was good, but, I was watching a live stream and I'm like, ooh, scary. You know what? It came in, it was held during, that like midday.
Thunderstorm?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it was an odd thing because the people got to speak and it started to rain. I think John was there. But then it stopped for long enough for you to throw some dirt, I think, right?
It's 90 seconds of dirt.
It was
going.
weird. It was.
Yes, and then the heavens opened up.
And then the heavens opened up. Okay. And so I have pictures of actually people hanging onto poles trying to keep the tent. But
Well, you
So-
had like 6 or 7 staff there.
that had
Yes,
to
and they were all.
change their clothes.
Oh,
So that was a fun thing, but so we're starting construction on the infrastructure for the JPS project for the streets. We're also continuing to work with our 2 housing developers, Gorman and Rubble, on their housing designs. We're meeting with them, so that'll be coming forward shortly. We got 3 new TIDs approved, one for Southwest Woods, the JBS site, and then a downtown TID that includes the new land project. Those were approved, and we've got one in the works right now, which is the new TID created for the public market. So we're going through the process for that. We have 2 options going forward to finance tomorrow on the Grandview site. So we just purchased the Grandview site and we already have some people that are interested in that. So those options are going forward to finance. And that's what I've got, unless you have any questions about any other projects hanging out there.
I keep on seeing in the news about those, the Titletown lofts in the Bay Lake building. That's,
The Gateway Collective.
yeah, yeah,
I understand there was an open house held.
yeah.
Was not made aware of that. I think they're done. I saw it in the news.
I keep on seeing it in the news too.
I
So.
think they're moving some people into that one,
Mhm.
which would be good. Get some stuff done.
All right.
I'll update you a little bit. Comp plan, public outreach is completed. We're going over the future land use map right now with Pine Tooth Home staff wise. The advisory group has met, kind of gone over the vision, looked a little bit at the land use, did a bunch of suggestions. So that's where we are right now with that. And the regional American Planning Association conference is the end of this week. And multiple staff will be going to that. We'll be presenting on the JBS project on Thursday. So all the other planners from the area. Ooh, and ah.
That's right. One more thing, we did send RFPs out for our site on Monroe, the old farmers market,
Mhm.
and also for Chicago and Monroe, right by House School down there.
Okay.
We didn't receive any responses back on the Monroe and Chicago site, but we did receive one response back for the 200 North Monroe site, which actually looks pretty good. We're gonna be reviewing that this week, but it looks like, yeah, you know. Looks like a good project, so I'll have to take a look at it. We're hopeful.
Sad that there's no grocery on it, but there's commercial space.
There's
Maybe a little
commercial space,
grocery.
there could be grocery there, same time, Dave, it's possible.
Right.
You can't say who at this point in time exactly.
I don't even think I know who submitted it.
I don't know.
At this
So it
point.
wasn't someone we know.
No, I think it's. I feel like it's somebody that we've been working with.
We've looked at proposals from the same company, I think, before. I don't think
Okay.
it worked, so.
Yeah.
I think it was a company that was interested in some of the Broadway parcels. They did.
Well, the grocery store is
They
still
did.
right there, but I know they would look for a better, bigger site.
Right. It's still possible. I mean, right,
It's still possible.
we want some, that Monroe needs to be activated commercially
Yeah.
in some
Yeah.
capacity, so. Space will be there. I don't know,
You know,
want to be optimistic.
well, if the space wasn't there, it definitely would be there.
That's right.
All right, so date of the next meeting is September 23rd, 2024.
Motion to adjourn.
Everyone's.
Sorry, I was thinking about the date.
All right, motion by Commissioner Duffy, second by Commissioner Ludlow, so was by Commissioner Fullwilder. All those in favor? Aye. All right. Goodbye, good night, guys.
We can hang out.